Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back again. I've decided I will do maybe a playthrough or two of Oxygen Not Included. But before I get started on this, I thought I would show off my personal base, just to prove to you that I'm not completely incompetent. So let me walk you through the base here. One of the very early things I did, realizing some of my mistakes from previous playthroughs, was to aggressively cultivate and grow plants, specifically mealwood. And why is that? Well, it all comes down to water. So here's the sewage system. But basically, in previous games, I had neglected farming altogether, figuring I could just make do with fried mush bars. Now, the thing about fried mush bars is they only need dirt and water, which initially you have a lot of. But water is a precious commodity in that it doesn't renew itself. So you have to use the finite amount of water you have wisely. And if we look at the micro musher here, mush bars each mush bar consumes 75 kilograms of water, whereas a lice loaf made of the basically the fruits of the mealwood, which are they're lice, I assume, because they move and stuff. So each lice loaf consumes only 50 kilograms of water. So if you're able, always given the choice, make lice loaf instead of mush bars, because it's more efficient that way. Ironically, plants do not consume water to survive, which is why plants very early on are a good way to reduce the overall water consumption of your colony. So, lice loaf. An added bonus of lice loaf is that it does not cause diarrhea. It's kind of a mixed blessing, because the more your duplicants poop, the more water goes into the whatever septic system you have, and then that gets turned into fertilizer. But my personal experience is that you get enough poop to turn into fertilizer even without relying on diarrhea. So that's a better way to make more efficient use of your water. Now, I'll explain to you what's been going on with this colony. So I started, again, here's the gate I started off with. And I have, massage tables for my stressed colonists. So it just used to look like this until I started running out of water. You see these mostly empty cisterns? They used to be full of water. I eventually emptied. I just consumed it all. I mean, no system is perfect. I don't know if they're in game. They're supposed to be perfectly. They reclaim 100% of water, but water that goes through, that you pump out of wherever and it goes through your showers and toilets, and also in your various machines that use water. They're not 100. You don't reclaim 100% of the water, so you'll eventually just lose water. I don't know if that's a bug, because on the subreddit and the Klei forums they've been talking about how there's a bug associated with things like liquid vents and liquid valves where they just seem to lose mass for some reason. That may actually have been fixed. I did see the latest patch notes. Pipes losing mass has been fixed, so hopefully you don't just get this mysterious water loss, although it's not inconceivable. In real life, we can't reclaim water with 100% efficiency, right? Anyway, as I ran out of water, I had to go deeper and deeper to get water. So I've actually built a pump way down here into this contaminated water, which, as you can see, I pump up into here into various purification systems. Another thing I was rapidly running out of was algae. Algae to keep my various air filters running. And so I have, I'm consuming water by using the electrolyzer. So but I also rely on algae to produce oxygen with the deoxidizers. And of course I was constantly running out of algae. Eventually, I mined out all the algae. That was, I'll see all these empty caverns here. They used to be full of moss and algae, right? Another alternate source of algae, though, is slime. Which is why I'm just above this sulfurous cavern down here. Slime can be converted into algae at the biodistiller. So I set up one biodistiller, and then I started mining excavating the slime mines, basically. Biodistillers although they're pretty cool in that you put in algae and they give you, sorry, you put in slime and they give you algae, and they also output water. So what you're doing is you're actually creating water, you're reclaiming water from slime. So biodistillers are great. You get algae and water. Of course you have to clean the water and stuff. But they don't work at very high capacity, which is why I have 4 of them running in parallel. That's just enough to keep up the algae production of my various air filters. But it is a great alternate source of water. See, I'm getting a steady trickle of reclaimed water, and it didn't start as water, it started as slime. It's still pretty gross, but you know, we do what we have to do to survive, right? And that's essentially, so that's the direction this colony went in, and it went pretty well. I mean, we're almost up to 50 days, population of 18. We're always on the brink. We're just almost, like, algae fluctuates. Sometimes we have enough, sometimes we don't, depending on the slime production. I do have way more fertilizer than I need. So actually, so much fertilizer that I actually turned off the fertilizer maker, which actually uses contaminated water to make fertilizer. And now it's just all being pumped into the various systems here. So the colony is starting to fail because I'm running out of sand, especially for the fertilizer maker and all the various filters. So the biodistiller and the air deodorizer all need sand. Well, there is sand, but it's hard to get to, right? I'm having to consume more and more resources to keep this running. I've mined out all the easy sources of slime, and getting slime out of here is difficult because everywhere there's slime, there's also like sulfurous gas. But otherwise, I think the colony's done pretty well. In terms of air filtration, I've relied increasingly on electrolyzers because they do not consume algae and just power. Of course, electrolyzers produce hydrogen, just like real-life electrolysis, right? They break your H2O molecules into H2 hydrogen, I guess, and oxygen, which combines back into O2 or whatever. And the problem with hydrogen is, of course, it accumulates in your colony and displaces oxygen, and it makes it hard for your duplicates to breathe. But hydrogen also rises, as it's well known to be lighter than air, lighter than oxygen, so it pools up here. And so what I've been able to do is I have built a, where did I put it? Here it is, the hydrogen generator. So the hydrogen generator uses hydrogen to produce electricity with no waste products, which is kind of weird. That's not the way hydrogen generators work in real life, but that's the way they work here. And this is an air pump, so it pumps hydrogen from the zones. Actually, yeah, just have the one. Here we go. So it pumps hydrogen from the areas, the high pockets from which it accumulates, into the hydrogen generator, which in turn turns it into electricity. Ultimately, if I continued with this plan, I would like to rely on power sources other than, I'd like to phase out the manual generators, the treadmills here. My issue with them is that they're a good way to keep the colonists occupied and generate power. However, a colonist running on a treadmill consumes more energy and consumes more air, right? So he needs to eat more calories, and he also turns more of your precious oxygen into carbon dioxide because he's working harder, which is inefficient. So if I can have, you know, ideally maybe I'd be able to rely on a coal generator or something. I mean, I've mined up a fair amount of incidental coal, just drilling all over the place. Install a coal generator, just runs on fossil fuels, lets my colonists not have to physically work themselves to produce power, which slows down calorie consumption, which in turn slows down food production, which also slows down water consumption, and it all comes down to water. So I run, you know, so I don't consume water quite as much. I'm pretty, honestly, I'm pretty proud of the water setup I have now. Most of it is reclaimed. Occasionally, I just cut off the pipe here. So this is my one intake, right? If I stop the new water intake, the water already present in the system can cycle several times until it slowly disappears over time. So I'm very good at recycling the water now. I consume very little of it with the current setup. But if I build an external power source, I could consume even less of it. Yeah. So I figured I would just show off my current colony just a little bit. Anyway, this is what a colony at like cycle 50 can look like, right? It's now this tangled rats maze. You know, rocky walls, unbreathable sulfurous like underworld, slimes being sent off into the horrible slime mines. It's like I'm, the lord of my own personal circle of hell. I'm torturing this like, and it didn't, I didn't set out. I want the quality of life to be good for my colonists, but that's just life on the frontier, I guess. Anyway, so that's a look at the my personal trans-dimensional space station. So I thought I'm excited to see what else there's so many other mechanics I still haven't explored yet, which hopefully I'll be able to do in the playthrough I'll be uploading here. But apparently, because I haven't played much with like the temperature controls, for instance, through the research tree, you can research temperature modulation and insulation, and in those you can jack up the heat or turn down the heat in a bunch of areas, and of course you have to pump the heat somewhere, and there's inefficiencies and stuff. But apparently you can get temperatures so cold that both carbon dioxide and oxygen will freeze, and freezing oxygen is apparently a good way to purify the air. And freezing carbon dioxide is a good way to get it out of your atmosphere. So hopefully I'll be able to maybe fool around with those systems as well. Yeah, anyway, so that's just another look at oxygen not included. I guess I should have said this at the beginning. Klei Entertainment is currently developing a game called Oxygen Not Included. It's currently in pre-alpha early access, they're calling it, which means it's not done. There's a whole bunch of systems missing and bugs and so on. Klei has shown them to be quite good with the early access thing, and the game is already tons of fun the way it is now. If you're interested in purchasing Oxygen Not Included, you can do so on Steam, although to get the actual page, you have to go to the Klei forums, because they kind of wanted to keep it slightly secret because it's a pre-alpha. So go to the Klei forums, and in the forums is prominently displayed a link to the correct Steam page, because the Oxygen Not Included early access page is distinct from the Oxygen Not Included final release page. Basically, you can't buy it on the final release page because it's not released yet, but you can buy the pre-alpha by going to the right page. So that's how you do it. And you too can torture your colony of duplicates. Well, thanks for listening to me blab on about this game. Yeah, and come back for my playthrough. I'll start a new colony, and I'll see if I can upload on, every, every few days or something. Cool. All right, thanks very much. My name is Alfred. I will see you around.